Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
6:07 on O'Connor and Company, and I'll have you know that I have somehow made it to the championship round of my fantasy football league.
Oh, really? Congratulations,
So things are getting pretty
Larry.
intense this week. Yes, all through the holidays.
Wow.
I'm just going to be obsessed with my lineup. Coming up at 6:35, Cal Thomas will join our conversation. I'll get some tips on who I should start at tight end from Cal Thomas. I think he might be able to help me.
Oh, he's into football.
No. 7:05, Steve Malloy. 7:35, Father Paul Scalia. 8:05, Kurt Schlichter. And 8:35, Christian Toto. I don't think we've ever had Kurt Schlichter following a priest. I'm worried about how this is going to shake down.
We might have needed to reverse it.
We should have done it in reverse, yes.
So we would leave with the blessing.
We'd all be absolved. Yeah, all right. Well, we'll let it shake down. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Patrice Onwuka. Merry Christmas, Patrice.
Merry Christmas Eve, Larry, and to everybody out there.
And yesterday we had a bit of a miracle, frankly, coming out of San Diego, California, a landmark class action ruling. And a federal judge came down on the side of parents, truth, justice, sanity, and absolutely spanked the state of California for their unconstitutional, outrageous gender secrecy policy, forcing teachers and government employees, even teachers who want to be honest with a parent and tell them the truth about what's happening with their minor child when they are at school, teachers were forbidden from telling the truth to parents. If you're a parent
My goodness.
and you notice something strange about your kid and you called the
Yes.
teacher and said, listen, Jane's been acting strange lately. I'm worried, depressed, withdrawn, and the teacher knows that this student, this child, has been identifying as the opposite sex at school. Based on California law, the teacher was forced to lie to a
so
parent. I mean,
wrong.
it's absolutely on so many levels. It is despicable and outrageous and unconstitutional. And this federal U.S. District Court Judge Roger Benitez, just days before Christmas, secured justice for the teachers involved who began the lawsuit. But then as it turned into a class action for all parents and teachers harmed by these unbelievable policies. Want to start by acknowledging these two courageous teachers who put themselves on the line. Elizabeth Mirabelli and Lori West. They began this lawsuit on behalf of all teachers and parents who were harmed by these policies. Of course, they were ostracized. They were demonized. They were called names. But, the Lord told us that when we stand up for truth, we will be demonized by society. And yesterday, they were validated. Incredible and great for the Thomas More Society who took up this case.
Massive win. Massive
It's so
win.
big. And I'll get into the ramifications of what this means and now the remedies due to the class action that the state of California has to go through to rectify the situation. It is sweeping. But I'll pause there because I know as a member of the great independent women's organization here in Washington, D.C., this has been such an important issue for you, Patrice.
Absolutely, Larry. This goes hand in hand with a lot of the work that we've done on sex and gender, protecting women, protecting girls in their spaces, but also around trans and transing young people, kind of peeling back this effort to socially or medically transition children and leaving parents out of the conversation, leaving parents out of the equation when it comes to what's going on with their kids. And so absolutely, this is a massive win. We 100% applaud. I really want to highlight these two teachers who stood their ground, who stood on their faith, risking their careers, risking, I'm sure, social isolation, and frankly, even more than isolation. I'm sure they were, targeted for a lot of vitriol from people that they even love and care about, friends and family members. And it's so important that people know if something is going on, if something is happening and you know it's wrong, speaking up, and there are organizations like the Thomas More Society, like Independent Women, like Institute for Justice. So many great organizations. We exist to be able to give you a platform for your voice and to help you fight for your rights, because it's not just it's your rights as a parent, but they're rights of other parents too who need to know what's going on with their kids, and it just sends a big message that no, the education system does not own our children. We will say it again, the education system does not own our children. We are their custodians. We are their guardians. We brought them into this world, and God has entrusted us with that responsibility. You should be a partner at best, a partner, a silent partner at best, nothing more.
Thank you. Well said. And yeah, I mean, this violated, obviously, parents' rights. It also violated the teachers' rights. If a teacher in good faith did not want to lie to a parent, and, we're told, we have to keep these secrets because parents aren't engaged, they ignore their children, they abuse it. They always think the worst of the parents. They act like they're protecting the children, and that if a parent knew the truth about their child, they'd abuse them, they'd harm them, they'd kick them out on the street. So they always think the worst of us, number one.
Yes.
But number two, what about if a parent actually is engaged and wants to be a part of their child's life, wants to fix the problem, wants to be a part of the solution, but they always default on the side of demonizing and excluding parents from these life and death decisions about their own children.
And by the way, parents who've been raising that child up to the point that teacher ever met that child, teacher never cleaned a dirty diaper, never had to kiss a boo-boo, never had to feed a child for 3 meals a day for how many years up until the point that child got to their classroom. So no, you do not have a greater control or care about my child than I do.
They pretend like they know better about these kids.
They do.
And even more, if I could borrow one of Julie Gumlock's favorite phrases, the nerve of these people to suggest that they can step in and know better for a child after interacting with them for, a couple of weeks in a classroom?
Yes.
Versus actually living with that child, bearing that child, and nurturing that child up to the point that this parent or this teacher, through the accident of the public school system, happens to have the privilege of interacting with my child. Not just no, hell no. I want to go to how Thomas More Society describes what happened here. Elizabeth and Lori, the teachers involved here, faithful Christians, decades of teaching experience, loved their jobs, dedicated themselves to helping children thrive in the classroom. And under California's parental exclusion policies, children had an unqualified right to engage in social transition to the opposite gender at school, forcing all teachers to use opposite-sex pronouns and a new name. And teachers were required to conceal that gender transition from the child's parents, absent the child's affirmative consent. This placed Elizabeth and Lori in an impossible position: lie to parents in violation of their faith and their ethics, or risk retaliation and ultimately their jobs. Believing it violated their sacred duty to protect students' health, safety, and trust, they turned to the Thomas More Society. They filed the suit, and yesterday they got that decision. Two things to take away from that: the fact that in California, the lawmakers there, all Democrats, dominated by Democrats, decided that law was appropriate and right and just and, frankly, virtuous from their perspective. And the fact that they would even pass that, and let's not forget who signed it into law, that would be Gavin Newsom, the man who wants to be your president. And secondly, if the language of how that law was just described from California that just got struck down in the state sounds familiar, well, that's because in Virginia and Maryland, you basically have the same laws in place right now. And sadly, this class action only applies to California's law. So this is not sweeping across the land, but it will be. It will be as soon as other states get wind of it. Coming up in a moment, I'm going to read to you what the remedy is now under this U.S. District Court judge's ruling, and what all teachers and the state of California have to do to reverse this horrific, evil policy that they instituted in law. We'll get to that in just a moment. But boy, oh boy, again, a Christmas miracle.
Massive win.
In all the places, California. It is 6:15. WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives with Andrew Walker in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center. Well, you talk about conservative values. and the difference between being a conservative, a fundamental sort of heritage policy-based American that looks at the fundamental rights that Americans have fought for since our founding 250 years ago, and the way the political, cultural left takes those rights and those understandings and principles and just flushes them down the toilet.
Over them.
Oh, this is the perfect example of it. They instituted in law, and it is currently the law in the state of Maryland and Virginia as well. I want to keep reminding you of that. And Abigail Spanberger intends to enforce them in Virginia at the same robust level. They instituted in law that a government employee, in this case a teacher, would be forced to lie to an American citizen, voter, and taxpayer. And in this case, a parent. It is the policy by law that a government employee must lie to a taxpayer, citizen, and parent about their own child. And by the way, those lies are inherently of a sexual nature. So it is the law of these states that a government employee keeps a secret of a sexual nature with a child from their parent. There is nothing that I can think of that is more evil than that notion. And they instituted it in law, and then they pat themselves on the back, Patrice, and act like they're the virtuous ones.
Because, what's so sinister about that, Larry, is that sexual crimes against children, we understand the statistics, make of them what you will, but it is very common for children to be targets. They're very vulnerable to being exploited sexually, to being targets of people who will take advantage of them. And it's the shroud of secrecy that allows sexual abuse to happen. And so how is it that a taxpayer-funded government employee like a teacher or a guidance counselor can take the shroud of secrecy around a child's sexual behavior or experiences and keep it from the parents?
That's right. What
happens when that child actually is abused? And in many cases, these kids have histories of sexual abuse. You're keeping that from the parent.
Right.
Because somehow you're virtuously protecting their whatever chosen identity. So the child's trauma, their sexual exploitation takes a backseat to your radical transgender agenda ideology. Right. That's what this is about.
That's exactly what it's about. And now let me tell you what California schools have to do now. If you're a school in California receiving public funding from the state or federal government, number one, you have to contact every parent of every child in which any employee, including school counselors at the school, has been socially transitioning a child, using a chosen name, misaligned pronouns to the child's sex, permitting the child to use opposite-sex bathrooms and other spaces, providing sex-rejecting garments, trans tape, binders, packers, the concealed to visit third-party sex-rejecting providers, community centers, Planned Parenthood, and all the like, and they have to inform them of their child's rejection of their sex. Now, the fact that every school now has to proactively go out and do that and inform parents of what's been going on, but it also tells you what they've been doing. Did you hear that list? The list of things that they've been doing.
Binders, packers, I mean, come on now.
And they've been providing these things behind the parents' back. Number two, inform every school employee that they must inform parents if any of their minor students manifest, display, exhibit, reveal rejection of their sex and gender incongruence, behaviors that are not stereotypical for their sex, whether the student asks the employee to participate in his or her social transition. Number three, request all school employees to provide the school administration with the information above, and then accommodate every school employee that for a religious basis does not want to treat a child as something other than his or her immutable sex, even if the parents of that child have consented to socially transition the child. Now, that's key. If the parent comes in and says, yeah, I know Jimmy was Jimmy for the last 4 years in school, but now Jimmy is Susan, and you teachers, you have to start referring to Jimmy as Susan, a teacher can say, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And that teacher cannot be disciplined, and that teacher cannot be fired. You cannot force a teacher to reject the truth.
That's right.
And their ethics and their religion. There's a few more policies here that this sweeping class action decision has empowered parents with. But right there on the face of it, that is just groundbreaking. And I saw this story. I wanted to pinch myself. I did not believe it was real.
It's massive. Let me just point out one other. Remove all training materials that contradict any of the above requirements. This is important because if these teachers are being trained whenever they have their training professional days, this is the kind of material that they're going through. That has to be scrubbed, and they need to be told, communicated this time and time again, because a lot of them are bought in on the gender transition ideology of kids in their classrooms. Take that garbage out of their training materials. Make sure these teachers are not using it or doing it. And I think this should be maybe it's just read it between the lines, but parents, if your kids come home and tell you that the teachers are still doing this, then it's time to report those teachers.
By the way, amen, well said. And one other thing, it's not only taking all the old stuff out of the teacher's materials, but now in the teacher training materials, they have to put in a prominent place the statement that says parents and guardians have a federal constitutional right to be informed if their public school student child expresses gender incongruence. Teachers and school staff have a federal constitutional right to accurately inform the parent or guardian of their student when the student expresses gender incongruence. I love that we're using the term gender incongruence, by the way. So they have to now proactively train the teachers of our rights, of parents' rights. And by the way, in the long run, that's what's best for the kids. And don't you ever take a back seat to these radicals on who cares and who has more compassion for the children. And now it's time for Virginia and Maryland to step up. If the lawmakers in these states don't proactively change these laws themselves, then it's time for a lawsuit here and cite this class action decision. Well done, Thomas More Society. It is 6:24.
All right, coming up, one of our favorites, Cal Thomas, will be joining us to talk about Christmas in July. We did get a Christmas present. He'll explain more. Stay with us. It's O'Connor and Company at 6:30.
A Merry Christmas Eve morning here at 6:36. Thanks for letting us be a part of your lives every day, and especially days like this. We're honored. Coming up at 7:05, Steve Malloy. He is with the Energy and Environmental Legal Institute. We'll talk about how electric prices are varying from state to state, why, and what at the federal level the Trump administration is doing to roll back some of the insanity under the guise of climate change. 7:35, Father Paul Scalia of the Arlington Archdiocese. Talk about Christmas a bit and what we should be focusing on for the next 24 hours, or maybe for that matter, the next 24 years. 8:05, Kurt Schlichter, not as holy, but still a good Christmas guy. And then at 8:35, Christian Toto will give us a preview of all the Christmas movies about to come out. Well, they're not Christmas movies, but they're movies released during the Christmas season. You get my point, Patrice Onwuka. Good morning.
I do. Good morning. Merry Christmas Eve, everyone.
There you go. And I already said It's a Wonderful Life, maybe White Christmas or Holiday Inn, but I do like the classics. I wonder what Cal Thomas would choose as his number one Christmas movie. Let's ask. Cal, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Sounds like you've got the cold that I have, Larry, and I want to deny that we have been cohabiting.
It is starting to catch up to me, yes.
Yeah. Well, my favorite Christmas movie was starred my great friend Loretta Young, and also David Niven and Cary Grant, The Bishop's Wife. It's still a classic. It's on the cable channels. Wonderful, wonderful film.
They remade that, didn't they, with Denzel Washington and Whitney Houston?
Yeah,
which is also pretty good. It is pretty good, but the original is on
The Preacher's Wife was the remake.
Yep. Yeah, well, you can't beat the original. I mean, look at you guys.
Aw. Cal Thomas.
You're so sweet. Thank
you. Hey, Cal, I do like your latest write-up here talking about how Christmas really came in July with the Big Beautiful Bill. As we're about to embark on 2026 and these tax cuts coming off of yesterday's economic news, we should be on a roll, I would think, starting this year.
Yeah, absolutely. All income groups are going to see more money in their pockets, lower taxes. The only thing we're not getting is a bigger cut in spending. The Democrats are losing one of their big issues, so all they can do is fall back on this Jeffrey Epstein business. Nobody has been charged or convicted of anything. It's guilt by association. And so that's all they've got. And if that's all they got, what are they going to run on? I mean, the GDP was bigger than anybody expected. The stock market is up at record new levels. This is going to encourage a lot of seniors, retirees, and 401k people. Their money is bigger than ever. So what do the Democrats have? They got Epstein. Let them run with it.
Well, exactly. And Cal, I feel like this is a vindication for the Trump economic agenda, which has had the legs of deregulation, spending cuts, tax cuts, and, tariffs, which gave those great 1776 dividend checks to our soldiers. I mean, I think it's pretty fair to say that supply-side economics are back in vogue.
No question about it, Patrice. And, the Democrats always want more taxes, whether it's at the state level or the federal level. But the more we give them, the less they produce. I've compared it in the past to sending your kid off to college and you give them a budget and they blow the budget the first weekend or a wild party and then they call up mom and dad, want more money. So, if you're crazy enough to send them more money after that kind of behavior, you deserve what you get. Government doesn't need more money. Reagan used to say, we have a debt not because the American people are taxed too little, but because their government spends too much. Absolutely
Yes.
right.
Hey, Cal, we're going to have a real good side-by-side comparison of those kind of traditional American free market principles and the government's role in our lives and taxation compared to what's about to happen in New York City. And if anyone's curious as to how Zohran Mamdani will lead, we just got quite the announcement about who will be swearing him in on New Year's Day.
One of them, Bernie Sanders, no surprise there. But, the New York Post, which does just some tremendous reporting on Mamdani. They got a piece yesterday headlined "The Red Apple," and it just covers 4 people that Mamdani has or is going to name to his staff. Here's their background very quickly. One of them arrested at the anti-Israel encampment at New York University. Another one participated in the anti-Israel encampment at CUNY with a banner that said, "Long live the resistance," and symbols of Hamas. A third one said video about the October 7 attack by Hamas was propaganda. And a fourth one posted on Facebook on October 8, mere hours after Hamas's attack, quote, "Resistance are justified when people are occupied." This is the kind of stuff you're going to get. I think New York is going to regret this. More businesses are going to move out. More wealthy people are going to move out. It's going to be a disaster.
Talk about a disaster, I think, is what we've seen, the back and forth that a lot of these cities have had with President Trump deploying National Guard. We just heard yesterday that the Supreme Court ruled against the National Guard going to Chicago, but I think the National Guard will be going to, a different city. What are you expecting for next year when it comes to the National Guard deployment and how these cities are kind of navigating crime and federal resources to help fight crime?
Well, 2 things, Patrice. First, you're not old enough to remember, but you may be read in the history books. Dwight Eisenhower called out the National Guard to integrate Centerville High School in Arkansas, 1957. Lyndon Johnson in 1968, after the Washington riots following the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., called out the National Guard. These are cities that are unable or unwilling to control crime and rioting and attacks on federal buildings in their cities. The other side of that coin is the voters keep electing these people, apparently expecting different results, the definition of insanity. So the real problem is not the National Guard or the president. The real problem is the people who elect people like Mayor Johnson and Mamdani in New York and this character in Los Angeles. And there's where the problem lies. Yeah. But I think the court is wrong on this. If you can't control your streets and your city, then you're going to have chaos and anarchy.
Cal, we appreciate you sharing your favorite Christmas movie. Bishop's Wife is a great one. Do you have, looking back, do you have like a Christmas that stands out for you? Do you have a special Christmas memory that you just can't shake?
When I was a kid, my parents gave me a Lionel train and set it up around the Christmas tree. But my cousin taught me on this. His dad took over the entire basement of their house and had a 2-tier structure with trains running in each direction and 2 transformers. It was amazing. But back in the day, Lionel train was great. Now, I lost it in a move once from one city to another.
Oh, no.
It really devastated me. But I found out there's this place in Denver, at least at the time, called Caboose Hobbies, which sells all of these classic trains, American Flyers, Lionels, and all the stuff that goes with them. And I went out there once and I bought the set with the Pullman cars that lit up on the tracks and the whistle and the smokestacks. You'd drop the little pill in the smokestack and it would smoke as it went around the track.
Yes.
So that's my favorite Christmas memory, the train.
Oh, I love it. Cal, Merry Christmas. And by the way, just for our listeners,
Cal.
Be careful
Thank you.
searching on the internet for caboose hobbies, because you could end up on a website that you don't want to have anything to do with. Cal, thank you for joining us, sir.
Okay. God bless. Take care.
God bless
Bye-bye.
You too.
Even on Christmas, I can't keep my mind.
Larry, why did you have to go there? I'm not going to search, though.
If you're trying to, there are parts of this town where caboose hobbies takes on a whole different meaning.
How can people be just so weird?
Well, it's
so
their
weird.
Democrats. 6:48 now on this Christmas Eve, and there's a article at Hollywood Reporter focusing on Alec Baldwin. You remember Alec Baldwin? He's got anger management issues, I think it's fair to say.
The husband of, is it Elena?
Hilaria.
Hilaria?
Como se dice cucumber. Yes. She was born in Boston, but she speaks with a Spanish accent because Alec's into that sort of thing.
Funny how that happens.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, Alec Baldwin, of course, who was accused of manslaughter but got away with it. He shot a gun on the set of the film Rust. It ended up killing the cinematographer and, I believe, the assistant director. He then lied about it after the fact in his interview with George Stephanopoulos. The evidence proves that he was lying, but he still, got away with it. He was not convicted of manslaughter. He's now appearing on a podcast, because there's always a podcast. It's called Dopey, on the dark comedy of drug addiction. This is a podcast hosted by a guy named Dave Mannheim, and he talked about battling some dark thoughts during the time of his arrest and his defense after the death of Helena Hutchins. And he has the audacity and is so tone deaf to now basically paint himself as the real victim in this whole episode. He claims that he has had intense health struggles after the shooting, and he complains that it has taken 10 years off of his life. I mean, of course, his actions took every year off of the life of two innocent people. But yeah, I mean, even if you think that, what brings a man who, regardless of whether it was a criminal activity or not, there is no doubting the fact that his actions led to their death of two people in their prime, to then participate in an interview where he says, this has been so hard on me. It's taken 10 years off of my life.
Can I read you what he said in this quote? This is according to the New York Post. He said, quote, "I can tell you it broke every nerve in my body, spiritually, financially, work-wise, my career, my wife, my kids, my friends, my health. I don't want to dwell on this. I just want to say that this was a very painful for my wife and my family and my sisters and my brothers and so on and so forth and my colleagues." And he described how his kids would see him sitting in a corner, Larry. He couldn't move. And, quote, "There was a point in time where I took a nap every day for a year, right after they announced they were going to raise charges." So we're supposed to feel sorry for him that he sits in a corner and takes a nap every day. Meanwhile, someone's daughter, someone's wife, someone's friend will never come back to life, will never see the light of day because of his actions. Talk about asinine and out of touch.
Yeah, well said. And he also claims that he has had suicidal thoughts during this whole time, and not to make light of or in any way diminish the very real issues of mental health and depression and the fact that people do have suicidal thoughts at some time. Even if that is the case with Alec Baldwin, and I'm not going to doubt him on that, to go public like this and to paint yourself as the victim in something like this is it's just distasteful and typical of narcissistic mania, frankly. I think he does have some issues, and he shouldn't seek help on a podcast. He should seek professional help, or perhaps turn to prayer and the scripture and find some meaning in your life that goes well beyond your own ego. That's just my opinion, though. Who am I to judge? It's 6:52. All right, coming up in our 7 o'clock hour, we'll have a conversation with Steve Malloy. He's with the Energy Environment Legal Institute. Talk about why during this wintertime electric bills are fluctuating state to state, and what at the federal level OMB Director Russ Vought has now done to restore a little sanity to the whole craze around climate change. And then a conversation with Father Paul Scalia, sort of refocus us here on Christmas Eve. Buckle up. We got 2 more hours. It's O'Connor and Company this Christmas Eve morning with Larry and Patrice.